can take down a machine. So let's go ahead and run through the process. I'm going to show you the process, and then we're going to knock this machine over. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to cd to the shellcode directory, and we're going to run shell prep. And I'll say this now and watch the exploit will work fine. So oops, we're going to go ahead and just hit yes here. And then we're going to enter in our reverse connection, 192.168.138.128 is mine. I'm going to say 9999 for this. We can do 2222 for x86. We're not going to use it. Now we have the opportunity to use a meterpreter shell or generate a regular command shell. If we do the meterpreter shell, we can go into meterpreter and we can actually run it in the sense that we use a multi-handler and pull down. It's basically a listener. It is a listener, and it's going to pull down a meterpreter shell for it. So it's just a shell code that we're generating. We already used a meterpreter shell to get the first shell on this. So now we're going to go back and we're going to go ahead and try to do this with a regular command shell. So you can press 0 if you want to try the meterpreter shell method. You can also press 1 to generate the regular command shell method. We're going to go ahead and just do the regular command shell. We're going to generate a staged payload. Staged or stageless here should crash this machine. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to run this listener prep once this is all done. So it's doing this for us. We're going to go ahead and cd back in a second once this is done. All right, now I'm going to cd back and we're going to do listener prep. And this is going to run a listener in Metasploit for us, which is nice. We could just as easily run this with netcat. We can just say nc-nvlp like we have before. nc-nvlp like this, and whatever port we're listening on, all 9s before. So we're going to go ahead and just let this run its course as intended. And we're going to do 9999. We did 2222 here. And we're going to go ahead and say regular command shell, all the same things we did before, staged payload. And it's going to start this up for us, hopefully start up some listeners, and you should see a lot of work just go in. Okay, it's got all those listening. It's waiting for any sort of connection to come through. So the next thing we're going to do is, and it is using the multi-handler for us already, it's just using a shell reverse TCP instead of a meterpreter reverse TCP here. So last thing we're going to do is run the exploit. So we're just going to say Python eternal blue like this exploit, and we're on 7.py. Our target is 192.168.138.135. Path to shellcode is just shellcode and then scall.bin. And we do not have to provide a number of groom connections. That's optional. We're going to run this and we'll cross our fingers. You never know. Might work. Doesn't look like it's working. We blue screen the machine. So this is a perfect example of why you just don't willy-nilly run this in an environment, okay? So a good lesson learned, honestly, because if you're in a critical environment, you have no idea what that machine does. Imagine if this was something in a hospital controlling equipment that was being used during surgery. Who knows? If you took that down, it could be very, very, very bad. So it's good to see the other side of it. Again, get permission before running something like this, unless you know that your environment's safe. It's okay to take down some machines, etc. But usually that's not the case. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next machine. Hopefully you got this and got through the walkthrough just fine. So I'll see you in the next machine as we walk through that and hopefully take down another box. Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you how to quickly open up the Academy machine in both VMware and VirtualBox and how to set it up. After this, you should have seen a Linux setup and a Windows setup, so you should have no more issues setting these up. I have full faith in you beyond this, so repeat the process. If you need to go back and watch the video, just come back and watch one of these. Anyways, we're going to open a virtual machine. If you are in VMware, I'm going to go into my folder that has it, Capstone, and I'm going to go to Academy and just double click, open that up. It's going to ask me where I want to put it. I'm going to go default settings. You can choose wherever you want. I'm just going to hit import. It's going to take a minute to import. While that's happening, I'm going to show you, and you might see a retry. Just go ahead and hit retry on that. It should work. While we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and show you the other side of things, which is VirtualBox. Go ahead and hit File. Go ahead and hit Import Appliance. and then just go select your file. I've got it for copy paste purposes. It's a lot easier. And VMware thinks it can just take over. It's wrong. So in here, make sure you just have your OVF file that you downloaded, hit next, and then come in here and you're going to see these settings. You can go ahead and just run the default settings for now and just import. We'll change the settings once we have it imported. So go ahead and import that. On VMware, we're just going to ping pong back and forth real quick. Under the settings for the Academy, go ahead and just hit Edit Virtual Machine Settings. In here, this is a Linux machine, so 1 GB of memory is fine. We don't need a lot. Come to your network adapter and make sure that it says NAT and not bridged. Hit OK. Go ahead and log in. Now you can power on this virtual machine, get that going. In the next video, I'm going to show you the password, which is just root TCM. Same thing here on the Academy. Go ahead and go to Settings. We're going to go to Network. Make sure your NAT network is selected. Remember, we created a NAT network. Make sure your NAT network is selected and that you are on the same network as your Kali Linux machine, or you will not be able to communicate with it. So with that out of the way, you can go ahead and power this on depending which one you're on. Catch me in the next video when we will talk about logging in, finding the IP address, and getting started with attacking this machine. I'll catch you over in the next video. All right, on to the next machine. This one is called Academy, and this was created by Alec, specially for us. Now we're going to attack this machine and we're going to get a low-level user. We're going to pivot into a second low-level user, and then we're going to root this machine. If you did not root this machine, do not stress about it. These boxes are meant to be hard if you are a beginner, and you are meant to walk through with us and see all these different techniques, tips, and tricks, and just the idea and mindset as well. So do not stress if you are having issues trying this on your own. That's 100% okay. So I have imported the machine. You should be familiar with this. At this point, all I'm going to show you is how to log into the machine, similar to what we did with the Windows box. Now the password here, the username is root, the password is TCM. Tango Charlie Mike. Okay, we come in, we're going to run DH client, hit enter. Okay, mine says file exists. That's because I already ran this. You go ahead and run it. It should take a second to load. Once that loads, go ahead and type IPA, and you should get an IP address back. Okay, mine says 192.168.138.129. Yours might say something incredibly different. But go ahead and go with whatever the IP address says here, because that's what you're going to use. Now, with that out of the way, I went ahead through the magic of editing and ran a Nmap scan. You're welcome to do this as well. -A, -P, -T4, IP address. Nothing new at this point, okay? What came back for us was a few different things here. We have port 21 open, and we have a VSFTPD, say that 3 times fast, 3.0.3, and it says anonymous FTP login is allowed. Okay, it says, hey, there's a note.txt in here. Okay, that could be interesting. Now keep in mind, everything that we're doing in these machines is going to be very gamified, very CTF, or capture the flag, and that's exactly what we're doing, is we're capturing the flag. So don't stress about this being incredibly realistic at this point. We're going to get into the more practical stuff as we get into the Active Directory pen testing section. We're really just trying to focus on some of the basic concepts and some of the things that you'll see if you go do any CTF events or you go on to any other certifications or anything like that. So this is a good introduction, kind of jump into the pool, maybe get your feet wet first into hacking. So with this in mind, we've got port 21, we've got port 22, we've got port 80. Now, 80 is a web server, 22 is SSH. My strategy here, when I see port 22, I immediately erase it off the board. Now, that's not to say that it couldn't have an option of attack here. You could brute force it. You could go in there and try like a root username, or if you knew other usernames, you can go in there and just try to brute force the password, and maybe you get lucky and log in. Usually on CTFs, that is not the intended route. Now, for things like, say, example, a pen test, you might want to brute force SSH because there's a couple reasons. One is there a weak password? Can I log in with a root user on a weak password for this machine? If so, that's bad. You tell your client, hey, this is bad. You're using weak passwords. Number two, you want to see if your client can pick you up, meaning, do they detect you when you are running brute force scans? If you have 500 attempts against an SSH login and you're still able to go attempt after attempt and nothing has been detected, you have not been prevented on that network, then that's an issue. You should probably bring that up to the client, say, hey, I ran a brute force against this login and you didn't detect me, you didn't see me do anything. We'll talk about that more in the report writing section and some of the things we talk about detection wise, but that's another example of something you want to test for and see if you're detected. You're testing detection throughout an entire pen test. So you want to say, hey, did you see me scanning? Did you see me brute forcing? Did you see me running exploits? Did your antivirus pick me up? Where was I caught during this pen test and where can you improve? So something about SSH, a little tangent there. But with that out of the way, port 21's open, port 80's open. Now we see down here that it says, hey, we're getting an it works page, which means that it's just a default Apache 2 web server. We can go out to this web server and just take a look, 192.168.138.129. You can see this is just a basic, hey, it works Apache 2 Debian page. That tells me that we're likely running on PHP on the back end, though that doesn't mean that entirely. This is just kind of an indicator when we see Apache, I'm assuming PHP on the back end. So let's go back here. Now, we could do a couple things. We need to identify what's going on behind the scenes because all we're seeing is a default web page, which, by the way, this is a finding on a pen test. So you would say, hey, this is just revealing too much information. Why do you even have this out there? Is this web server meant to be up? If it is, then take away this default web page and make it, make it say, hey, if you're not supposed to be here, then don't be here. Anything but a default web page because all we're seeing is architecture here. If it's not supposed to be there, from a hacker's perspective, this means poor hygiene. You're just leaving ports open. You're just throwing computers on the network and on the internet willy-nilly, and this just means that you likely have poor hygiene, and we want to look into you further because if this is something you're doing, you might be using bad passwords or not patching, etc., etc. So anyway, off that tangent, going back to the scan, I'm curious to know what the note says. We'll go check that out. We have anonymous login, so we'll start there. And then we're going to go ahead and take a look at the different pages that could be hiding behind the default page. So I'm going to leave this up. And now we're going to go take a look first at the FTP. So in here, I'm going to make this bigger. Okay, so FTP, all you got to do is 192.168.138.129 or whatever your IP address is. And then I like to just type anonymous twice. Okay, we get an anonymous login. We are successful. We can come in here and say ls. All right, and we have a note.txt in here. So all we need to do is type in get note.txt. That's it. And we're pretty much done. So the option here is we have FTP open. Now, there's a possibility that we could utilize this. So we have the ability with FTP to put files and get files. We just got a file. We can come put something on here. The only issue is we don't know where on this machine that this note.txt is stored. If for some reason this note file was stored in like this Apache server, if we came in here and we just went like /note.txt and we saw it, all right, then that could be of interest because we know the directory that we're in. We could come in here, just upload malware, come up here, execute the malware because we have execution, and then we could get a shell and keep pushing forward. But in this instance, we don't know where it is. There's a good chance it's not even in the web server. If for some reason it was in the web server, we could use that to execute, and that is a strategy that we might see at some point. But here, in this instance, unless I know where this is, the ability to put files in here does nothing for me. In a real world scenario, maybe we can go look at getting social engineering or getting somebody to open a file or something along those lines. But for here, for this capture the flag type style, we are only focused on getting this note, and that's pretty much it. Also, secondary finding on a pen test would be this, because we see Apache 2.4.38. It's telling us it's running a Debian server, which means we're attacking Linux. So if we were doing this blind, didn't know that, now we know. We know the Apache version, we know Debian. We're getting a little bit of information, and we're just compiling that information right now. Debian server, Apache, PHP most likely. Okay. All of this is information gathering, and that's all we want to do is gather as much information as possible. Now let's go ahead and exit out. And I want to just cat out this note.txt. Okay, so it says, hello Heath, Grimmy has set up the test website for the new academy. I told him not to use the same password everywhere. He will change it ASAP. I couldn't create a user via the admin panel, so instead I inserted directly into the database with the following command. All right, so we get looks like a database information here with values. Now it says the student regno number is what you use for login. So student regno here, you see this ties up to the first. And then we see student photo, and there's nothing in for the student photo. We see password, then we get password here, student name, okay, pin code going on. So this is pretty sensitive information. If this were on a pen test, which I've actually seen something similar to this, I've been on pen tests where I have seen open FTP servers. I've seen open web directories where they had backups of their entire website on there with database passwords and everything. It is it's realistic in a sense that you could run into something like this. It would be pretty bad. So anyway, this is coming from our friend J Delta, and we're gonna go ahead and just grab this password here. We've got this. Now the issue is this is likely not a password. This is likely a hash, and we can copy this and see first before we go down that route. This might be a password, but we can copy, and let's just take a quick look. We can go, let me cd back out of this here. We can do something like this. We can type in hash identifier like this and just hit enter. Okay, this is built into Kali Linux. You just go ahead and paste selection, hit enter, and this will tell you all the things that it thinks it is. This is saying, hey, most likely it's an MD5 hash. Okay, so we have an MD5 hash. Guess what? We can crack that hash. I'm gonna go ahead and exit out of here with Control C. And if we go to Google and do a quick Google search, so I'll give you time to go do a Google search, but all you have to do is say hashcat, which is the tool we're gonna use to crack this password, crack MD5 hash. Here we get a blog that says how to crack MD5 hashes. You go into that, and it says, hey, in order to do that, you need to run hashcat -m for module and 0 with your hashes file, and then a password list like rocku.txt. So we haven't gotten much into hash cracking in this course, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. We'll talk about it a lot more when we get into the actual Active Directory hacking, because we start cracking passwords there, it becomes a lot more important. Here, we're just going to play around with it a little bit. So I'm going to show you this only this one time. I'm going to show you this on a Linux machine. This is running in a virtual machine here. Okay, so we're running hashcat. We're about to run hashcat in a virtual machine. Typically, we do not want to do this because hashcat is going to be running off of our CPU. Okay, it's going to be running off our CPU inside a virtual machine. That's going to make it run a lot slower. Hash cracking runs off of GPUs. Okay, so we're running off of our graphics card, not our CPU. So we want to do that. So when I run hash cracking in the real world, or even later in this course, you're going to see me running it on Windows because that is my base operating system. I will take that, I'll run it off there because it's going to use my GPU. It's going to use my graphics card. And that's what I want. So in this instance, it's going to go a lot slower, but because it's going to be an easy password to crack, we don't have to worry about it too much. But if you want to be good at cracking passwords and practice that, definitely make sure you're using it on your base OS, regardless of what it is, because it's going to crack a lot faster than running it in your virtual machine. So we're going to do a hashcat. Actually, before we do that, go ahead and type in locate rocku.txt. You should have it somewhere. Okay. You might have a tarred version of it or a gzip version of it. You can open that if you navigate to this folder, like user share, come in here to your folder, like literally go into browse network or file system and go into user, share, etc. You can get there if for some reason you do not have rocku.txt. In the later version of Kali, they already have it here. So I'm assuming that it's here. If not, if all you see is a gzip, go ahead and just unzip that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to say, actually, one more thing I forgot. You can go ahead and do a mousepad or gedit or whatever you want. You could do a hashes.txt. Copy and paste the hash. It's a little small probably for your screen from what you could see here. Copy and paste the hash into this hashes.txt, the one we got right here. Okay, make sure it's in a file. So once we've done that, go ahead and run hashcat with a -m of 0. That's a module. So we're going to be attacking the module of 0, which correlates to MD5 hashing. We're going to give it the file of hashes.txt, and we're going to give it a word list to run through of rocku.txt. Okay, and I'm going to scroll up just so you can see this. It's going to run. It might take a minute to run. It took me a couple seconds here. Gets through it pretty quick. Rocku runs fairly fast on a VM, and this one picked it up pretty quick. So the password of what's coming up is student. Password of student. Not very great password. Weak password policy. Okay, so we have a username. We have a user ID. We have a password of student, but we have no idea how we're going to do this. Okay, where are we going? Now, I can take some educated guesses here. Like, for example, they're saying, hey, this is for the new academy, and this box is called academy, and there's a good likelihood that if you were to do a /academy on the web page, that maybe you find it, right? And we can go academy and go find it, but I don't want to just show you and cheat. So let's go back and we're going to walk through it. We talked about directory busting with dirbuster. I want to show you a couple other tools that we can use and show you the pros and cons of both of them. So open up a new tab. Make sure we're going to use two different tools. So I want to show you both. Go ahead and use a tool called dirb, D-I-R-B. And for dirb, all we have to do, I do believe, is just type in 192.168.138.129 and hit enter. So this is going to go off of the website. It's going to run on its own word list. It's going to go in here and try to find stuff. Immediately it found phpMyAdmin. The issue is with this, it's just going to go in and start like going into the phpMyAdmin and looking for directories, and it's finding all kinds of directories, and this is going to take a minute. So this is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is using a tool called ffuf. I don't know how you say it. Ffuf, whatever. Everybody's got their own pronunciation. If you do an apt install of ffuf like this, you hit enter. I already have it, but yours should pick it up. Okay, we're going to run the tool just like this. So we're going to say ffuf once yours is installed. Do a -w. That is for word list. And your word list should be in user, share, word lists. And we can do dirbuster, that's fine. This is where all the word lists are. And then I just like to double tab or tab around. And we're going to use the medium word list. That's my go-to for most cases. We could use the lowercase if we wanted to. I think either are fine. Okay. From here, we're going to go ahead and back up. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a colon here, and I'm going to type in fuzz. Okay, this is what we're going to fuzz. We're going to do a -u, and we're going to do HTTP 192.168.138.129, and we're going to say /fuzz. So what we're telling this is, hey, with this word list, we're going to be fuzzing with this word list. We're going to fuzz this parameter right here. This is exactly what we're doing. Okay, we're going to hit enter. And this is immediately going in and just doing all that we want to do. It found Academy right away, phpMyAdmin right away, and this is very fast. Found a server status, and all it's doing is looking one thread deep. So it's not doing what dirb is doing. Dirb is going and saying, hey, I found phpMyAdmin. Now I'm going to go through and find every single directory inside of that, and every single directory inside of those directories, which can take a while. This one is saying, I'll find all the first level directories, and if you want to go search those, you can. Like, we could type in academy/fuzz. There's commands in here that we can do to take this further. We can limit which response statuses we want. Maybe we only want 200s, or maybe we want 302s, depending on this. So maybe we don't want any 401s or 403s or 405s. We only want the ones that come back as 200 guaranteed. So in this case, we're looking like we got a 301 from Academy. So there's a redirect there. Same with the phpMyAdmin. All right. So with that in mind, this is how you can find it. Found it quick. This one's still going. There's different strategies, different tools, everything else. This one's pretty nice. There's a lot of tools that come out for directory busting all the time. Latest ones are being built in Rust, which is interesting because Rust is really fast. There's ones built in Go because Go is really fast. So you pick your poison on a directory busting tool and you just run with it. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and enter in that registration number. So you can go ahead and just come copy it from here. And then you're going to go ahead and paste that. And then the password is student. For me, I've changed the password in here because I've already gone through this box. But you'll be brought to a change password screen. So you could type in student, change it if you want to. You really don't have to. You can come in here and start clicking through, hey, I want to enroll in a course, enroll history, my profile, change password, etc. So this is really what we have. Now, the interesting thing in here is that we have this upload photo feature. So if we look at this, we can come in here and say, okay, how do we want to attack a website? What are some ways that we can get code execution? We might be able to perform like LFI, RFI attacks on this and pull down information or execute code. Maybe there's SQL injection somewhere in here we can pull down and dump the database. We did see a phpMyAdmin. Maybe there's more behind this, behind the scenes that we can do. We can also go out, and something that we didn't really look at on the first scan is we can do a version check. Like we didn't check on this version to see if there's a vulnerability there. That would be something you can do. Same with the OpenSSH, same with the Apache. You can go and do those. I'm only not showing you that because I'm saving time here, but the correct methodology would definitely be to go check these as well to see if there's any vulnerabilities. Now, there is in here this is a online registration. You can look and see if there's any way to pull down like viewing the source and see if maybe anything in here would tell you, hey, what CMS is this? What is this built off of? Because clearly this is a CMS of some sort that they've used. Now, with that in mind, we can go back and we can kind of just look and see if we can find anything. The first thing we might want to do is just come in here and do a browse and come and say, okay, I'm going to upload, let me go to my desktop. I'm going to upload a picture of a dog. You don't have to do this. I just want to see if it works. Okay, so I uploaded a picture of a dog. Perfect. Now, the question here is, and by the way, we can see up here that PHP is in use. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, by the way, but PHP is in use. So it should say my-profile.php. What we want to do is we want to see if we can upload a file that is not a dog. Okay, like not a JPEG, not a GIF, not whatever, PNG. We want to see if we can upload something that's not a photo and abuse the file upload system. If they're doing no checks here and we can just upload this, they are in big trouble. So what we can do is we can right click and go, we can view image, which will tell us kind of where the image is stored. So it's stored in Academy student photo / and this is dog.jpg, which is what I uploaded. So what we can do, let me refresh this. What we can do is try to upload a reverse shell here and see if we can't get a connection back by viewing this. Let's see if we can upload something malicious. Now we know this is Apache, so we're going to upload via PHP. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. What I want to do is go out and we're going to do a quick search. We're going to go to Google and we're going to say PHP reverse shell. And there is a great one out there from Pentest Monkey. Okay, first hit should be up here. There's other ones that you can use. People have their preferences and their favorites. This one is 6 years old and still works perfectly. So all we're going to do is go raw here and copy this. Control A, Control C, very quick. And what I did was I went ahead and put this into a file here. So let's go ahead and clear screen. You can just do mousepad, gedit, nano, whatever you want. Actually, I might nano this just so you can see. But I called this shell.php. And then I pasted it in here. That's all you got to do. Shell.php, paste it in here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. You're going to get to this little part after the comments. And you're going to see, hey, it says change this. change this. You need to put in your IP address. Whatever your IP address of your attacker machine is, that needs to go here. So if you need to open up a new tab, come in here, do IPA or ifconfig 192.168.138.131. Come back. That matches what I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, in my opinion, is fine. You can leave it as is for this machine. So Control X. This is fine. You can hit yes, save if it asks you to. Just hit Y and enter, and that will save your shell.php. So we have shell.php. We need a listener. We're going to do a reverse shell here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on the NVLP on netcat. This should not be unfamiliar to you. You should already be aware of this. So we're going to go here, and now we've got this listening. We're waiting for something to happen. So we're going to go back into this, and we're going to upload this malicious file. So I put this in my root folder, shell.php, click update, come in here. You can see nothing's happened. Let's see if it tries to execute. Oh, it already executed. So we don't even have to go to, like, we don't have to right click and go to that that location. It already executed that file when it loaded this page, which is crazy. So we have a shell here, which is great. So if we do a who am I,